Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 746B, and today's date is August 20th, 2015, and the title of this episode is U.S. Pushing War While Russia is Preparing for War. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. Tomorrow, Friday, a new interview is going to be placed up on the X22 Report Spotlight. It's going to be V, the guerrilla economist. V and I got together. We talked about what was going on around the world and how this collapse is going to form. If you're on the X22 Report email alert system, you will get an email when this interview is uploaded to the YouTube channel X22 Report Spotlight. If you are on the X22 Report Spotlight channel, you should get an email from YouTube. If not, just go right to the channel and you'll be able to view and listen to the interview. If you want to come to the x22report.com site, the interview will be on the right-hand side and you can listen right there. Let's get right into the economic collapse geopolitical news. Now, I talk about Obamacare quite a bit, and we know Obamacare is not for the people. We know that this was put into place to make the insurance companies rich, to bring in tax revenue, and to give a little bit of benefit maybe to the people. Not much. And we see right now Congress is suing Obamacare, his administration, because there's a problem with the money aspect of it. It is challenging the outlay of $175 billion as part of the cost-sharing reduction program, which pays out money to insurance companies and lowers premiums primarily for the poor. And Obama is saying that this is just like Medicare or Social Security and doesn't need the oversight of Congress. Congress is saying, well, no, this is money. We need to control it. You need to talk to Congress. And it looks like there's a lawsuit going on right now. We understand the United States government is continually bringing in illegal immigrants. And a lot of these are violent illegal immigrants because what happens is they have orders from the Obama administration where the Border Patrol, DHS, as soon as these people jump over the wall, no touch. Do not deport them. And we're getting information that the Department of Homeland Security has been releasing illegal immigrants with violent criminal records back into local U.S. communities, where they have often gone on to commit, yes, violent crimes against American citizens. This was according to a new disclosure by a leading lawmaker and a local law enforcement agency. So they are actually seeing this happen. And again, despite the repeated attacks on American citizens by illegal aliens released from the jails, DHS refuses to stop freeing violent criminals. Because you have to remember, when they come into America, there's no checks. There's nothing. They just drive them off to a town or a city and release them, giving them working papers and everything else they need. And we talked about why they're doing this. This is all part of the agenda to get them working at the low-paying jobs, to continually push the bubbles up, inflate the bubbles more and more by taking out student loans, by taking out auto loans, maybe even buying a house. Also, it adds a added benefit to the corporations because they don't have to pay that $3,000 penalty to the illegal aliens. So we see at this point in time that the illegals are being brought in. A lot of them are criminals. Some have diseases. Now, I have no problem with people coming into this country if they go through the proper channels. I mean, what's the point of having borders if you're just going to let everyone in? It makes no sense. Just take down the borders then. Just let everyone in. Because that's exactly what they're doing. Now, the FBI released a report saying that the next big terror attack would likely be conducted by American militia groups against Muslims. Really? They're saying Patriots are going to go after the Muslim groups. Now, this to me sounds like a setup. It seems like they're going to provoke this. It seems like they're going to have agent provocateurs to make it look like American citizens went after other American citizens. Because even if you're in this country and you're a Muslim, if you're a Catholic, if you're a Christian, if you're Jewish, if you're Buddhist, it doesn't make a difference. If you're an American citizen, you're an American citizen. It makes no difference what your religious belief is or what your background is. So this is what they're trying to convince everyone of. And they're most likely going to do this because we know eventually what they're going to do is they're going to create some type of an event here in the country, and they have to point out to a bad group, and that bad group is going to be Muslims. The Muslims are the bad group that they're using this time around. And a lot of people have this idea that other countries view Americans as a great, free democracy, peace-loving country. But according to the leading Western polling agency, Gallup International, the prize for the greatest threat is won by the United States. The rest of the world regards it as the gravest threat to world peace by a large margin. In second place, far below, is Pakistan. Iran is ranked below those two, along with China, Israel, North Korea, and Afghanistan. But again, Americans, they don't see this. Look what the U.S. government, central bankers, has done to many of the countries around the world. Created war, got rid of their elected government, created humanitarian situations, destroyed their economy, and most of these countries are in continuous war, which has not stopped whatsoever. No wonder they see us as the biggest threat. Now, the United States government central bankers are basically forcing South Sudan to sign this peace agreement. And South Sudan saying, we have every intention of signing the agreement. He just needs a couple more days of consultations before they actually sign it. Now, remember, South Sudan is very friendly or has good relationships with China. North Sudan is basically working with the United States. And what we're seeing right now is if they do not sign the peace deal, the United States is going to propose United Nations arms embargo on South Sudan. Russia has its reservations concerning the U.S. proposed draft resolution on imposition of an arms embargo and expansion of sanctions against South Sudan. Under the U.S. draft resolution distributed on Wednesday, the sanctions will become effective automatically as of September 1st if South Sudanese president refuses to sign a peace agreement with the rebels and a ceasefire regime fails to come into force. Because they're looking at this and they're saying we need to study everything very carefully because the resolution is complicated with many components. And I wouldn't be surprised when they, or if they sign this, basically what happens is that government comes under the rule of the North government and they lose their power, because this is what the United States government central bankers do. It's almost like in Ukraine, where they told the southeastern people, listen, here's the peace, lay down your weapons, we're going to take over that section. That's the peace deal. It seems like the same thing's happening in Sudan. Now, it looks like we've had some type of false flag in North Korea and South Korea. South Korea is saying that North Korea just all of a sudden fired upon them. And they fired some rockets, heavy artillery across the border. And what everyone doesn't realize is that South Korea was using propaganda warfare where they're basically blaring loudspeakers towards North Korea and continually provoking them over a period of time. And I go back to my example of a bully walking down the hall, and if you don't know this example, they pass many times, the bully pokes the person every day for like the next 3 weeks, and all of a sudden that person lashes out. And the teachers only see that person lash out. They didn't see the poking all along. We're having the same thing happen right now. This is what the United States government central bankers are trying to do to each one of these countries. China, Russia, North Korea. Provoke, provoke, provoke. Let them attack. The war is on. This is what's happening right now. Now, Yatsenyuk right now has hooked up the border checkpoints of Ukraine to Interpol database. Now, every citizen that goes through the borders will be checked with Interpol to make sure they're not a criminal. Is really that what they're looking for? Or are they doing it to check every single person? We see the Ukraine right sector, which has been used to overthrow the elected government of Ukraine, which was kind of backed by the United States government. Well, we've learned from a German television that found photographs of the right sector training children. You know what's very odd about this? Every time the United States is involved with like the right sector, with the Islamic State, the kind of the proxy armies, they always seem to have the same thing in common. They use white phosphorus, they use some type of chemical weapon, and we always see the pictures of children being used in armed forces. And we see the same thing here. An analyst, Stephen Cohen, is out there, and he is saying there are growing signs that Kiev may soon launch an offensive against the two breakaway republics. This is a Princeton University and New York University professor of Russian studies, and he's saying, yes, he is convinced Kiev is ready to go all out in the southeastern region. And he's saying they're going to lose. He's saying that the forces in Donetsk and Lugansk are much stronger. The half-trained armed forces of Kiev are not going to be able to topple the forces in the southeastern region. And if they can't do it, they will most likely resort to some other type of weapon that will give them an advantage. It might even be a small nuke. We see the OSCE observers are fearing escalation of fighting in Ukraine. They have sounded the alarm bells, saying things are definitely getting worse in Ukraine. They're seeing an upswing in a lot of fighting, a lot of shelling, and things are getting worse as each day goes by. Putin is out there saying foreign forces still threaten Crimea. Well, of course, Ukraine, the United States, doesn't see that Crimea has moved towards Russia and now is a part of Russia. They still believe it's part of Ukraine. East Ukraine right now is going to hold a referendum. Putin has finally given the green light. Leaders of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic are planning to hold a referendum by November to join Russia, just like Crimea. So that means from this point in time, we're going to see all-out fighting most likely occur, unless something else happens. But we can see they're heading down this path. We see right now that Russia is maneuvering anti-aircraft missiles into the Arctic. We know the United States, Canada, and other nations are making claims to the Arctic. Everyone is getting prepared, but we know the United States government central bankers are pushing for war. They're bringing in military assets, offensive military assets. And if you look, Russia is always setting up defensive military assets. So the U.S. is pushing war. Russia is preparing for war. U.S. has admitted, yes, the Saudis are using cluster bombs in Yemen. U.S. officials are confirming tonight that what we already knew, the Saudis are using cluster munitions. But they say that it's okay because Saudi Arabia is not a signatory to the Convention of Cluster Munitions. So it seems like that's okay to use. But all the countries internationally are saying, no, this is really not good in a war situation. It's one of those weapons that you don't want to use on the people. And the U.S. is really in hot water from this. And they're trying to explain away why it's okay. It looks like the Patriot missile system is being removed from Turkey. Well, everyone's like, oh, because look, everything's being peaceful and everything's going to be great. No, the Turkish government realizes the Patriot missile system is a waste. It doesn't work. A retired Turkish lieutenant general said that the Patriot missile system proved powerless defending Turkey. One time, a shell from Syria flew into the Turkish territory, and guess what? The Patriot missile system completely failed. This is why it's being removed. We know that Israel is getting ready with the U.S. to invade Syria. We know the IDF has been training, holding drills, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there were artillery fire, rockets, fired into Israel. Of course, they hit the desert. No one was hurt. It was far away from everything. And we know this is a false flag event. And then Israel returned fire into Syria. Now they're going to use it as we were attacked. Now we're going to go after those that attacked us, which means an invasion in Syria. It's all being set up at this point. And the Israel Air Force also struck Syria to respond to that rocket fire. This is a complete setup. We knew this was happening. So they were training, preparing for something to happen, and then all of a sudden, it just so happened to happen. And the U.S. is prepared on the north. Israel is prepared on the south. They'll meet in the middle in Damascus. This is what's been going on. And we're going to see something major happen very soon here. We see that the Ashley Madison website was hacked. We all know this. 37 million users on the infidelity website was hacked. And all of a sudden, the hackers started to release some information. But why was this hacked? Well, this whole hacking affair was a staged exercise in mass entrapment and blackmail. What does the NSA, FBI, CIA do? And other agencies like Mossad, MI5, what do? Well, they get all the information on people they need to blackmail or entrap. And a lot of the government email addresses with .gov, .mil, about 15,000 of them were captured and released. So we can see this is a two-sided agenda here. Blackmail certain officials, push the agenda for cyber legislation, and this is why we see all of this. The NSA here is set up to spy and to blackmail, to push certain agendas. That's it. This is why we see all these cyber attacks. And you have to remember, the NSA has a lot of backdoors into a lot of software, which allows real hackers easy access. But we knew that this was definitely for this type of an agenda, to blackmail those people. And they're probably sifting and sorting through it, finding those people they want to blackmail and have them do the things they want them to do. Because you have to remember, this entire country has been completely taken over. The people aren't in control. The government officials aren't even in control anymore. They're basically being blackmailed into doing things by foreign entities, by central bankers, by corporations, and others. And this is why eventually the people have to say no more. We're done with this. This is our country and we want it back. There will come a time and a place to do this. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.